When Super Mario 64 came out, there was never a Russian version of it. This is still true for the Nintendo DS edition and the recently released 3D All-Stars edition, but that didn't stop Russian players from playing anyway in their own language. Someone took it upon themselves to create a Russian edition ROM hack of Super Mario 64 for the Nintendo 64. So in this video, let's take a look at the stars, levels, and some dialogues to see just how good or bad of a job they did. To start, you can see that they've created their own font for the Russian alphabet, Cyrillic. This font had to be made from scratch because, again, there was no official Russian translation of this game. There was no Nintendo 64 in Russia. They did get a Nintendo DS at some point, and then a Nintendo Wii on December 22nd, 2006. But there was no Wii VC translation into Russian, and the Nintendo DS appears to be the EU edition, so no Russian language was there either. A cool thing about the font is, having looked at the raw hex data for the dialogues, there's no difference between the number 0 and the letter O, 3 and the letter for the Z sound, and 4 and the letter for the Ch sound. They've written everything in all capital letters as well, which is an interesting choice because there's absolutely enough space if you combine the upper and lowercase Latin letters. Anyway, the menu has been changed a bit. Instead of saying Mario for each file, there's just numbers. Interestingly, they could have edited the bigger text too, since just like the font, it's only textures, but they have chosen not to. So there's still some English here. They've changed Peach's letter graphic to be Russian text and have not edited or removed the voice lines. The level names, star names, and enemy names have basically been decided by this hacker because beyond a few tweets from Nintendo, there aren't any official names. So let us begin by looking at the level names, as is customary. In Bob-omb Battlefield, we get the name for Bob-omb, and it's the same thing as English. But in Whomp's Fortress, the name intrigues me because it just means something like tooth? Yet, according to Mario Wiki, the official name should be Baba, which is an onomatopoeia for a banging sound. And in Lego Mario, the name should be Whomp, which is kind of like Whomp. I mean, it's not hard to see where this name comes from, because I don't think these Whomps have been to a dentist, like, ever. Jolly Roger Bay goes the typical Pirates Bay route. Jolly Roger is not a concept that really exists in other languages, so I'm not surprised. Cool Mountain doesn't duplicate the adjective either, probably due to character space constraints, and leaves it at Icy Mountain. So, Big Boo's Haunt. We've got Hunting for Ghosts. This is also almost identical to the first mission name, which just uses a slightly different word for ghost. So I'm inclined to think the first word is being used for Boo, and the mission name is the generic word for ghost. Hazy Maze Cave drops mention of the maze part of the cave, but otherwise is pretty much the same. Lethal Lava Land doesn't alliterate, and it just means world of fiery lava. And Shifting Sandland goes a similar route, though using a word for quicksand as opposed to just sand. Which is more fitting, to be honest. Dire Docks reminds me a lot of the Japanese name for this level. But I'm noticing a trend in general that adjectives aren't repeated like in English. Russian is a beautiful language, don't get me wrong, but its words are really long and have more consonant clusters than English, so it's understandable that the translator would opt out of repeating it because there's just not enough room. Snowman's Land is 100% identical, as is Wet Dry World. Tall Mountain is High Mountain, as in tall, not other things, you heathens. Tiny Huge Island is Magical Island. Playing this game as a speedrunner has pretty much ruined the mystery behind this level for me. I used to think that Mario's model was actually being shrunk and put back to normal size, but now I know that the tiny and huge islands are just separate areas, and Mario doesn't change at all. Tick-Tock Clock is the same, but with a different word order. Rainbow Ride is a big rainbow. For the secret stages, a fair amount of these are identical except for a few things. Cavern of the Metal Cap is Metal Cap Cave. Tower of the Wing Cap is Air Cap Tower. And Vanish Cap under the moat is Clear Cap under the moat. Wing Mario over the rainbow is Flying in the Clouds, and Secret Aquarium is Hidden Aquarium. Before I get into mission names next, it's important to know that Russian does not have words like a, and, or the. These are known in linguistics as determiners. So, because these words don't exist, it's often hard to tell which one goes where. And so, I will write in the one that I think makes the most sense. Here's the star names for Bob-omb Battlefield. So, I think we have to talk about Star 1. King of the Mountain? Why not something like, Bomb King on the Mountain? There's plenty of text space for it, so it gives. Also, one of the options in Google Translate for this is King of the Hill, so... This star name actually turned out to be the name of the show King of the Hill in Russian, and is the term used in various King of the Hill modes in different games. In Star 2, here's the name for Koopa the Quick, which means Speedy Koopa. This also gives the name for Koopa itself, which is essentially the same. Stars 3 through 5 are also essentially identical, but Star 6 is unique here in that it's asking a question: what does the chained Chomp guard? There's also the name for Chain Chomp, which means Chain Chomp. So now we move on to Whomp's Fortress. Well, Star 1 is certainly an accurate description. The Whomp is very angry. Paves our roads and we're so ungrateful. So completely understandable, my dude. Stars 2 through 4 are fundamentally the same, I would say. Star 5 is reworded, but conveys more or less the same thing. But Star 6 is just spoiling the whole thing. I don't really have a whole lot to say for Jolly Roger Bay, because the translator has done a pretty good job here in my opinion. They're all basically the same, although again, with Star 5, the solution is just being given. Cool mountain. Star 1 makes this seem more exciting than it actually is, given how easy it is to just fly off the level and die. Over and over. Stars 2 and 3 are the same. Star 4 replaces Frosty Slide for Snow, which I think is more fitting because there aren't any red coins in the cabin slide at all, and none of the coins are on the outside slide part either. Star 5 is also the same. And Star 6 is always an interesting star to look at. It's easy to translate to this like, wall kicks will do fine, or a similar overarching meaning, but inevitably other languages just decide to say, here's the answer, you dumb idiot. Big Boo's Haunt. So like I mentioned earlier, Star 1 and the level name itself are almost identical for some reason. A slightly different word for ghost is being used in each one. The longer one is being used for a general ghost, and the shorter one for Boo. But besides this oddity, the star names are the same. Hazy Maze Cave. Star 2 says at the elevator, as opposed to elevate, which is a verb. Star 3 is the same, although it is missing the modal verb can. And stars 4 and 5 use the word labyrinth instead of maze. There's also no play on words for Star 5. Lastly, Star 6 is no longer watch out, but rather, there is a riddle to be solved. Though honestly, you can see the star from so far away it hardly feels like a puzzle.
Here's Lethal Lava Land.
Well, I think there's a small difference between making someone mad and then literally boiling them alive, but whatever. Stars 2 through 4 are basically the same, as is number 6, but star 5 doesn't seem to have a hot-footed kind of thing going on.
Now for Shifting Sandland.
Star 4 makes it a little less clear what the objective of the star is, and Star 5 uses fewer words, which is probably due to character space. Lastly, Star 6 takes a note from Star 3 in calling it an ancient pyramid and directly says secrets, which you need to collect for this star.
Dire Docks.
Star 1 decides it's not going to tell you what to do, and it's ultimately up to you to figure out how to get it. Stars 3 and 4 are the same, but Star 5, interestingly, is changing things up a bit. Star 6 is also not telling you what to do, unlike the original English.
Moving on to Snowman's Land.
Starting with the second star. This level's bully is notoriously known as the chill bully, yet the Russian here is saying cool the hot bully. So which is it? And honestly, I don't like hidden in the ice because this star is, well, not hidden at all. It's right there, plainly visible at the level's spawn. The remaining stars 4 through 6 are basically the same, though it doesn't seem like there's a good way to convey shell shredding.
Wet Dry World.
Instead of arrow lifts, we have elevators, which could be confusing because there's this elevator right here. And speaking of this elevator, I like that they've rearranged the words a little bit. The rest of the stars aren't that different.
Tall, Tall Mountain.
There are many differences going on here. First, it's telling you to go to the summit, more specifically. Then, Star 3 says red mushrooms instead of scary. Star 4 says the other side of the mountain, which could be confusing because this is the slide star. The final star is just flat out telling you the intended method.
Tiny Huge Island.
Stars 1, 2, and 4 are the same, but wow! I didn't know Koopa the Quick was so angry about losing back in B.O.B. He's out for blood. And I get the impression the creator of this hack didn't know the official name for Wiggler, which is Egoza, meaning fidget. They've instead named her Centipede. So, in both of the last two stars, instead of saying Wiggler, we're saying Centipede.
Tick-Tock Clock.
Star 2 is maybe an intentional alliteration of the Russian words for mechanism and pendulum. Star 3 refers to what is a hand on the clock as just an arrow, and Star 4 doesn't make any mention of the Thwomp. This is likely due to not having a proper name for this enemy. The last two stars are fundamentally the same.
Rainbow Ride.
Star 1 loses mention of the cruiser, which can make this star a little more difficult for those unfamiliar with the game. The big house is now a palace. Stars 3 and 4 aren't very different, and the final two are completely identical in meaning.
Now it's time to wrap this video up by looking at some of the enemy names. Some of these are official, some of these were decided by the person who made this ROM hack. And some of them I couldn't really find at all, so if you know the Russian name for an enemy, please let me know in the comments. So that concludes this video. If you enjoyed it, please leave a like and subscribe, and make sure to tick the bell so that you can see more videos of mine in the future. Also, be sure to check out the supplemental page for this video on my blog, which can be found at luhu.com/blog. Thanks for watching!